Hello, I'm Bill Akins and welcome back to my shop. I'm here with my son Tyler today. My father gave my son Tyler my grandmother's kitchen table, and my dad said it was given to them back in the early 40s, and it was pretty old looking then, so this thing could be pushing 100 years old. We have one leaf that goes with the table, and you can stretch this thing out, and I could probably put up to about 5 leaves in it, so I want to make at least 2 or 3 more leaves to stretch this thing out. Looking at it, I think it's oak, but we're going to this is not a building project, it's a refinishing project, so we're going to strip this thing down and do a little work on it. It has 5 legs, really nice beautiful turn legs with these flutes here in the center, but it's a 5-leg table, and there's a set of 6 chairs as you can see here, and we're going to refinish all this. These old seats here, the boards in them are really thin and old and cracked, so I'll probably replace them with some plywood, and then we'll recover those again later on. We're going to have to flip this over. I need to do a little work on the bottom, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we hope to make this a nice table for Tyler to have one day. Okay, we flipped it over, and we need to do a little repair work. On each of the 4 corner brackets the legs go into, it was just a hole. There was no little thing to screw the legs into. The leg screws went through, a big square nut on the top, and all 4 of these and the center leg partition, they're just wallered out, you know, from scooting the table around, moving it, and the threads on that bolt just eat that away. So what we're going to do is take all these off and this centerpiece and replace it. And I'll drill smaller holes, and I'm thinking of putting some kind of tubing inside the hole that's for the bolt to slide into, but I'll decide on that a little later. So I'm going to take some scrap oak we have and cut these partitions out and replace them. Also, we will be opening up the table and giving it a good cleaning, tightening a few of the other screws I see kind of loose, and give it a good cleaning. And then all these wooden slides, I want to put a little paste wax in them so they'll slide real well. But at first there's a little repair on the bottom and some cleanup, and then we'll start finishing the top. Well, we got this thing turned over and we got to looking at some of the problems. As you can see in the corner brackets here, these holes were just wallered out really bad, but the old oak in there had laminate on both sides, and it is just, I guess the old hide glue is just peeling up, so all these have to be replaced whether the hole was bad or not. And these things set on these little brackets here, every one of these, there's 2 on each corner, they've got to be replaced. They're all cracked. There's 4 of these little curved brackets. As you can see, they're all just worn out. This thing has taken some abuse, so those got to be replaced. And the runners themselves are in good shape, other than being quite dusty. Nothing serious there, but I am glad we went ahead and took them apart. And that way we can come in here and clean these, a little light sanding, and wax these. So pretty much we're going to replace all the brackets, clean these up, and since everything's out, we're going to do a little more work on the bottom of the table. I wouldn't plan on doing any other than cleaning it, but we're going to do a little light work in there and make this thing a lot sturdier. No wonder it was wobbly. Every one of these little brackets are cracked, screws are wallered out. It was missing way too many screws, so all little straight screws, and we'll have to replace a bunch of them, so I may just get new screws all around. But yep, we got a job ahead of us. Okay, we're back down the shop today, and we've removed all the brackets in here, and Tyler's just finished tightening the screws around the skirt. We're not taking that up. He's wiped down mineral spirits and cleaned the inside very well. First we're going to be making these corner brackets here, and that's basically an oak 2x4, and which is kind of hard to find, so I picked up a couple of 3/4 inch boards, and we glued those together last time. So we'll be cutting these out of this. Also, we'll be making these other corner brackets today, and then these little brackets. So, and then we'll put all that back in here, and then start doing the stripping. drilling the pilot holes for the corner braces. Okay, we've got all of our corner brackets made. We've got these screwed in here to the table. Where the legs go, it's had to do something a little different. These kind of legs do not have the little screw-in things that go in here. The threads go straight through. In years of moving around, the threads had wallowed out the holes. So what I've done, I took some half-inch brass pipe that I had and cut it long enough and glued it in here. It's almost like doing a brass tubing in a pin. But I glued that in, and I'm hoping that will help keep the threads from wallowing out that hole. And then we've got these all pre-drilled. We've got these little corner brackets here. Tyler is finishing up, and I believe that's about it. So go ahead and put that corner bracket on. And the only other thing I will have to make is the centerpiece, but I'm not going to do that until we're ready to put the runners back in. And after that, we're ready to start stripping the old paint off and seeing what we make this thing look like. Alright, Tyler is now applying some clean strip paint remover onto the old finish. We did try a spot the other day for a test and cleaned up pretty good. So while we got it upside down, we decided to go ahead and do the skirt and the bottom lip of the table. Then we'll flip it over and start the top in a minute. But we're going to let this sit for a few minutes and then come back with a bunch of rags and start wiping it off and scraping if necessary. Okay, we've applied one coat of the stripper and it did pretty good. Now Tyler's wiping off the second coat. And as soon as he finishes, we will wipe that down with mineral spirits and clean it up, and then we'll flip it over. Alright, we're working on the top now, and we've let the paint stripper set for a little bit, and Tyler's scraping it, which we should have been doing to start with. I didn't have a scraper, so just using an angled piece of wood, and it's working great. But it's coming up, and the wood's looking quite pretty now. This half over here is already done, and you can see the big difference there. And we've given it a good mineral spirits bath. And when Tyler's through that side, in the one leaf over there, we'll wipe it down, let it dry overnight, and quite possibly come back tomorrow and start sanding. Okay, Tyler has sanded the skirt and the bottom edge of the table with 120, and now he's doing a little hand sanding on the groove. Next we'll go up to 180 grit. Okay, the tabletop is done. Tyler is now putting the paint stripper on the legs. They're very pretty legs. It's been turned with flutes in the middle. But we're doing a couple of these at a time. And then we'll start stripping those down. Okay, the paint stripper has set up for a little while, and Tyler's wiping it down and scraping out grooves and scrubbing it with little brushes, whatever it takes to get the paint stripper off. And the paint's coming off pretty well. We have picked up some white oak at the lumber yard, and Tyler is cutting the pieces to length so we can make 2 more leaves for the table. Okay, Tyler's putting the glue on to glue these 3 boards up to make a leaf. We're making 2 leaves. And I'm about to lose my voice, so sorry about that. Alright, Tyler's clamping the first leaf together. 1 more leaf to go. After these dry up, we're going to run them through the planer, get them to the right thickness, trim the edges to the right length, and then pull out the router table and get the cove to match up. Tyler's having to do hand sanding on the legs. He's about halfway through with those. Okay, we're finishing up the leaves today. Tyler is about to drill the holes in the side of the leaf to hold the dowels. We have made a little jig out of some scrap oak, have it clamped on. The jig itself has a center line marked around it, which lines up with the lines on the leaf. Okay, we have the drill bit marked with tape. There was a 3/8 drill bit. We're putting 3/8 dowels in. But this is the little jig we made, and you can see it's just 3 pieces of scrap oak that will wrap around the side of the board perfectly. The hole centered perfectly to drill to hold the bit, and we've already did 1 leaf and it tested out perfect. So now we will put 3 dowels, 3/8 dowels in each side of each leaf, and we're about through and ready to finish. Well, while Tyler's sanding the other legs at 220 right now, has to be done by hand. We had this one leg that was missing a big hunk out of the top. Underneath the table, you'd probably never see it, but let's repair it while we can. So what I've done, I just took a scrap piece of oak that the corner just fit right down in that gap very well, and glued it in, clamped it down. It's been setting up. It's a little bit oversized, so what I'm going to do is take my little gent saw, trim it down a little bit. I might take a draw knife, spoke shave, just a few things, a rasp, and fit this in there, and then we'll do a little sanding on that and do this repair. Okay, I took a lot of it off, so a little more shaping. We'll have that down there good. Since the thing has been finished or stripped and sanded up to 180, he still has to do the 220. Got it wrapped in a towel here in my vise to keep it from getting skin up any worse. Do a little more work here. Okay, the gent saw took a lot of that extra wood off. Now this is a you can see it there, is a draw knife that belonged to my great Uncle Grady. The table that we're refinishing these legs for belonged to my grandmother, and this was her brother. But I received Uncle Grady's draw knife, and I put a new edge on it and cleaned her up, and I've been using it on my shaving horse. So let's see if that'll help take off a little bit. Okay, took off a little too much actually, but I think my grandmother would like to know that her brother's draw knife helped fix her table. Let's try to spoke shave a little bit. My Lee Nielsen flat spoke shave is doing a good job on this. And let's come back with a rasp. Okay, and I'm going to hit it with a little piece of that's an 80 grit sanding belt. Alright, a little more sanding. I'll take it up to 180 and pass it to Tyler and put it in his pile to finish with the 220s, and the legs will be done. Let's seal that up quite nicely. And Tyler is doing the final 220 sanding on the legs. Get those ready for the finish. Okay, the final phase before putting the finish on. Tyler has sanded the tabletop and the leaves up to 220. We have all the legs here, if you can see it right here. He's got those sanded up to 220. Got them hanging from the floor joist up there. And the last thing I'm going to do is put these pegs in. We've already dry fitted the table with the pegs. Everything went great. My little jig worked like a champ. So Tyler's going to go ahead and start putting the glue in. And we marked to make sure the pegs go in the right side, so we didn't want to glue them in the wrong side and find out at the wrong time. So we're just putting a little glue here. We had the 3/8 holes with the 3/8 dowel pegs. And it is very late in the day. It is 6 o'clock in the evening here in January, but it's been a very pretty warm day. We're going to come back in the morning and start the finish. What we have just done is done a shop cleaning, and I got a one dusty shop, so we'll try to give it a clean best we can. What he's doing now, they're in there pretty snug, but we're just putting a piece of blue tape for just a little pressure. No clamps on these dowels. That's all it's going to need, and that will seal that up. But we have cleaned the shop, and we blew out the shop with the blower. Well, the shop vac turned into a blower, and then we got everything set. We're going to come back in the morning, give it a final wipe down, and then start putting our finish on. And we're getting very excited about that. So we'll see you in the morning. Alright, we're back down here today, and it is staining day for the table. Tyler is applying General Finishes gel stain. This is the Java color. This being an old antique table, the wood grains and the different colors were too inconsistent there to use any other kind of stain. So I used my guild membership in the Wood Whisperer Guild, and I sent old Mark Spagnolo an email and some pictures, and I said, what do you recommend to refinish this old antique table? And he told me to use this. So it's General Finishes Java gel stain. So Tyler is applying our first coat right now. We're going to let that set on for, it says, about 5 minutes. And then we will come back and wipe off the excess and see how that goes. Tyler says it looks like pudding. Okay, we let this set between 5 and 10 minutes now. And Tyler's taking an old rag and starting to do the wipe off the excess. And we did a couple of swipes there. and it is coming off, and you can see the grain through it, and it is very uniform in color now, not splotchy. Just in the first few minutes here, I'm very impressed with this product. Okay, we have the tabletop done and the 3 leaves. Tyler is starting on the legs now. You can see one is completed. We'll come back and do the wipe down shortly. What we have changed though, and when I say wipe down, we went through several different rags, and one would work fine for a minute, and then it would start to take up too much of the stain and leave streaks. So I've just got a very large, very soft paintbrush that I'm coming back and smoothing out the stain with, and picking up the excess with that, and that has worked so much better. But you can see those legs are really looking sharp there. That's a very good color for them. I'm glad we went back with the antique brown color there. But we will finish these up, let these dry overnight, and come back tomorrow and start putting finish on all these. I hope to get 5 coats of finish on everything. Okay, we're down here on Monday. Tyler is applying the first coat of sealer. We're putting on, this is Minwax Gloss Polyurethane. And for the first coat, we're just putting it on straight. Want a nice thick coat on there. Wiping it on with an old sock. Every day when he gets home from work, he's going to rub the table and the legs down with 4/0 steel wool. Clean them off, and then we will be putting on a 50-50 mixture of the gloss poly with mineral spirits. The other 4 coats will be like that, and each one will be rubbed out with the steel wool. So yeah, it's really looking sharp. Tyler, what do you think of the Java gel stain?
That was a great recommendation by the Wood Whisperer.
I think so too. Okay, it's assembly day. We have just come back, and after doing a little research, I realized these tables did not have feet on them, but in the holes on the bottom of the legs, all those 5-leg tables had casters. So we've just picked up, had to get 6 casters, only going to use 5 of them, so Tyler's going to start putting them in. And these just fit perfect, and they snap right in place and lock in. Okay, now time to put the legs on. If you remember, we put brass tubing inside the corner brackets to keep them from stripping out again. We are also adding a large washer to the bolt here, and then putting the square nut on that came with it. Washer.
I've already got it on there when you slid it in.
Okay. Get your nut. Very little room to work at in the corner there.
Alright.
Okay, alright, get the wrench. And then what we've learned is to put the wrench on the nut and just hold it and then turn the leg. So let me know when you got it locked.
Should be. No, it's not. Or is it?
Yep. Alright, that's it. That works better because there's not enough room there to turn that. So let's put the other 3 legs on, and we'll flip this thing and put the leaves on it. Okay, the table's together with the leaves. Right now Tyler has some 1500 grit wet sandpaper. We have a tub with a little dish detergent and water, and he is applying some of the soap mixture now with that 1500 grit. And we've already done half the table, and every little skimpy nub that's still in there is gone and just feels super smooth. So he's finishing up that in. While we were putting the leaves in, the table was 42 by 42 without any leaves, and you put 1 leaf in it. I made 2 more leaves, and that extends it out to 73 inches by 42. we stretched the sliders out completely, and I could put 18 more inches in there and run it up to a 92-inch long table. That's a very long table. That's why it had the 5 legs. So Tyler is finishing up the wet sanding. We'll dry that down, and then we're going to come back and put some wax on it. All right, we got the table dried good, and Tyler is applying a coat of Renaissance wax. And then he'll come back behind that and buff it off. Tyler and I had a little treat today. We drove down to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, and Lee Nielsen was there doing their hand tool event. Highland does 4 sale days, and this was their winter sale day with Lee Nielsen there. And then also Chris Schwartz was there. So our woodworking group, the Modern Woodworking Association, we got to hang out with Chris Schwartz a bit and check out the store and have lunch together. So that was a fun day. Alright, with the wax on, Tyler's come back with a 3M auto buffing cloth. I like to use those, and he's buffing it down. And this table is done. Well, Tyler's table project has come to an end. A little recap, this was my grandmother's table, and my father gave it to Tyler, my son here. It's over 100 years old. It's a 5-leg table. We have rebuilt underneath it. I made 2 more leaves to go with it. It's a total of 73 inches long now with the 3 leaves in it, 42 inches wide. We've covered it with gel stain, General Finishes Java gel stain, wiping varnish, and then we just got through waxing it with Renaissance wax. And Tyler, you did a good job on your first project here. We're sitting in 2 of the chairs now, and in a few weeks we're going to start restoring those and do a little repair work on them, strip them and refinish them, and then reupholster them. So that'll be our next little project. But thanks for watching with us, and Tyler did a good job.
Oh, you did a great job.